Okay, no, just sounded totally silent for a second.
I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I mute myself, like if I'm eating or something, and then I unmute, and then
Oh,
sometimes I'm speaking and I forget I'm I'm
yeah, I
muted.
love that when I'm in a meeting and I'm making all these wise comments for 3 minutes and I realize no one heard a thing I just said.
But I'm here and I hear everything and
Okay,
I get amused and everything too.
good to know.
Great. You're live, Miss Phyllis. It's showing up on my Facebook.
Okay.
I got
All
it.
right, I'm
I'm
on.
I'm gonna share it.
Smash that.
I'm sorry about that. Sometimes
Yeah.
I mute.
Help, we're handing you the host back at like it.
Great. Great. You're live, Miss Phyllis.
Okay. There you go.
Got it. And we are 5-2.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, we gotta figure something out with that thing because it's ridiculous.
What's the matter?
The stream is like
Behind.
no, it's getting it up and going.
Yeah, for some reason my computer won't allow me to I can't see Facebook and I think it's because of my operating system. So they have to stream and then I go live. Yeah. But we are live right now, just to let you know. We're live on Facebook, so this will be up for posterity. Everything that we're saying now until we broadcast.
Can be held against us.
Allegedly.
Okay,
Allegedly.
Always. Man, we don't have any of the European set on here, huh?
Yeah, that's
What's going on there? Man.
I see music is live now. Here it is.
should I try to text Tim? Or...
Yeah, can you
I can
just
certainly
knock
do
this
that.
out real quick? Yeah, like it. I think we're gonna go in about. What time is it like?
It is
About
3-2. 4-2. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go about. I think we'll go 5 or 10 after. 5 or
Great.
7 after. I'm sorry.
Sure.
You can actually right at the hour, go ahead launch the Zoom,
Great.
and I'll be cool with that.
Wonderful.
cool. Yep, I see the Facebook is coming in fine.
Cool. Facebook land. We are still getting set up.
Wow, there's a huge delay. Like there's something someone said like 30 seconds ago. Oh my
Hello,
God,
future. Hello, the future.
Yeah,
If you believe in time travel, meet me here 30 seconds ago.
right. I'm gonna turn Facebook off lest I create some cosmic loop or singularity where I go into a black hole.
Hey man, singularities and cosmic loops are always welcome around here.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Adventure Time, like my favorite philosophical cartoon.
Oh, what's that? Is that a?
It's a really cool cartoon, and it just deals with Finn and Jake. And anyway, they go on all these existential adventures and have conversations similar to this.
And what is that on? Is that a?
I think it's on Cartoon Network. I found it online though.
Oh,
Adventure Time.
yep. I can always use a good cartoon.
It's fun.
I just texted Tim, so I'll let you know if I hear anything.
Yeah. Byron, you sent Tim his proprietary link.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he got it.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm feeling pretty good.
Me too.
And we are a minute too, so I'll be broadcasting shortly.
Great.
All right. Yeah. I hope the times are not confusing to them.
No, wasn't. It showed up the correct translated time on my calendar.
See,
Okay.
on the calendar, right? I mean, I saw 11 a.m. Central, but for me, it's an easy transposition. But
Yeah.
for them, I mean, it's was it like 5 o'clock?
5
Yeah.
at night or something.
Yeah, and that's what Andre said. He said 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so he knew, right?
Yeah. Oh, if they come in late, they come in late, and it's better late than never.
All right.
Wonderful. I'm gonna broadcast now,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
and we're live.
We'll start behaving, but we'll give a few minutes because we've been told that this thing is not propagating right up front like it should, so we're gonna let it roll for 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, I see that there are 9 participants, so that's a good sign. 11, 12.
Yeah, we had over 30 registers out the gate, so I don't know what happened after that.
VoiceOver on Pro Tools. VoiceOver off.
Everybody came to hear what Ed Gray had to say today.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be uncontaminated by rehearsal.
Tim here.
Okay, Timothy is here.
Ah, there he is.
Mr.
Yeah,
Tim
yeah,
had,
I
Tim likes to pull right up, right on time, and hop out. Like
Right.
he throw the valet.
He left the keys in the car.
Oh, hey, how you doing,
Tim,
Tim?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, it's exactly how we build products as well, by the way. Yeah.
Oh man, hey
No,
Tim,
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I want to introduce you to Aliki. She's gonna be our sighted moderator.
Hello.
Hi.
She'll be fielding the questions and stuff like that from the attendees and so forth and so on. Yeah, and this is Mr. Tim Adnett, Aliki.
A pleasure.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, got
Oh man.
good count of attendees. One of the attendees' names is James Brown, so that's
Uh-oh.
quite a snag.
Hey.
Got a high-profile audience here.
Oh man. Yeah, and I'll get started in about 2 minutes or less. See if Andre floats in.
Yeah.
If
Should I text him too?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I just saw your message, Slough.
Oh yeah. No worries.
Sorry. You see, it's 5 o'clock here, so I had to have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Dumb thing.
That's really impressive to me, actually.
Yeah.
That I mean, the fact that you guys are so married to that the tea thing. I'm like, wow, this is.
Yeah, I'm not really. Actually, I'm more of a coffee person, but it's
Yeah,
it's I make an
Man.
exception every now and then.
man.
I got to London for the audio developer conference last November, and they had tea at the hotel, and I in my 54 years of life, I don't remember stuffing my face more than I did at that tea. It's a true
Excellent.
display of gluttony.
Proper British experience.
Oh, it's so good. And then I had nowhere else to put the food, and they said, would you like some more sandwiches? And I said, are they free? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No. It was
All right,
Play.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started, gentlemen.
okay, great.
Slough, you could you chime in when you get back in.
Yeah. I'm right here. I just texted Andre.
Okay, cool. Hey, this is number what? Oh, what a likey. I don't know. This is 7. I'm thinking.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we're on 7. Welcome to IC Music, where we train the totally blind, visually impaired in audio production, studio engineering as it pertains to adaptive technology. Today, Q&A session is, man, this is going to be incredible. We talk about companies, we talk about accessibility, we talk about products, we talk about all these different things, and we demonstrate these things. But it's also really, really cool to have, to hear and experience these things straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. Not that these two gentlemen are horses, but you know. but we'll get to that in a second. I just want to shout out to our cool sponsors, persons who are socially making a difference in this world, companies who are putting their heads together, putting their powers to be, their resources to work in a very amazing, accommodating way. We're going to start with Avid, the makers of Pro Tools. Thank you very much. Shure Incorporated. They're the Shure microphone makers, creators, manufacturers, as well as Sweetwater, audio retailer, where you can I would say they're the most intense audio retailer in the world, being that you can order something, mail order it, right? And it comes to you. And it's like going to a store almost and enjoying. And if it doesn't work for you, guess what? You can return it. And then guess what? If you're blind, they're supporting you heavily in the tech support department. So thank you to those guys over there. And last but not least, Native Instruments. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
And I in the house. Native Instruments is, that's the industry standard. You listening to a pop record, you listening to a hip hop record, doesn't matter, a rock record, you're hearing Native Instruments anytime, anywhere, and that's how it's done. So yeah, I'm not gonna sit around and talk about a whole bunch of this and that. I think I'm gonna get right to some questions out the gate for myself, because I'm truly excited to have these guys on. We're gonna have we got a little bit of an interesting panel here today. We have from Avid, Mr. Ed Gray. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
The one and only Mr. Ed Gray. And from NI, Native Instruments, all the way across the pond, Mr. Tim Adnett.
Great to meet you and see a lot of names I recognize as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, guys, this is a pretty loose thing, man. This is time to have some fun. One thing is for sure, I got some questions out the gate that I want answered because we have these folks here. I think a lot of times the community doesn't get a chance to have access to you gentlemen, and to companies in general. Only through just a commercial, or on YouTube or something like that, or maybe seeing it at the accessibility panels like at NAMM and stuff like that. Also, I want to say this too before I get down to some questions. We're gonna have Slough Halliton. He's on the panel today as well. B Sharp Studios in New York. I'm doing a terrible crowd, rendition, but and then lastly, helping us with some product support stuff on the Native Instruments side, really on that complete side, is, you all know him, the finger drummer of the world, the keyboardist of the world, Mr. Andre Louis. I think he'll be chiming in a second here. So Ed, let me ask you, man.
Yes, sir.
Your title at Avid is?
I'm director of partnering programs for Avid. So in addition to being the resident blind guy, I also manage our third-party programs, our third-party developer programs. And just so you know, this November will be my 25th anniversary at Avid.
Whoa,
Man,
excellent.
So,
man. So Pro Tools, because Pro Tools, the software, Avid has won some awards. Am I is that fair to say?
yeah,
Is that true?
we have shelves full of awards for our products, and win lots of Grammys and Emmys and awards from magazines for buying the most ad space. But the one that's most relevant here, and it's one that Slough facilitated, we won the American Foundation for the Blind Access Award in 2016 for Pro Tools.
Wow.
Because we made big advances with Pro Tools, and it went from being kind of sort of accessible to accessible enough for a blind user to use it without sighted assistance. And that was the beginning of what I'd like to think is a multi-year trend of improvement. But it was a huge honor, and I have to say, Slough made the phone calls and rattled the cages to make that happen. And then we both went to DC to accept the award. And someone took us out for expensive dinner. It was great.
Okay, so that's it, right? What's interesting to me, I mean, because this is totally not the norm, as we know in this particular industry, in the audio industry. Um, what drove accessibility to Avid? Like, what made you guys say, "Hey, look, Pro Tools needs to be available to the blind"? Like,
Yeah, well, Pro Tools. Oh my gosh, it must be going on a 30-year-old product. Yeah, we have an employee that started at DigiDesign that just celebrated his 35th anniversary with the company, which is Mark Jeffrey. So it's been around a long time. It was created by two UC Berkeley graduates.
Really?
Peter Gocher and Evan Brooks, and they were musicians. They were doing some programming to make money to buy equipment for their band. They programmed drum chips for the Drumulator originally, and then made Sound Tools and Pro Tools. So I think Pro Tools came from and still comes from a good place of help of democratizing music and helping people create digital content. And so as part of that, I'm sure there were blind people asking how to use Sound Tools from the very beginning.
Yeah,
and then
for sure.
Pro Tools, we shipped Pro Tools in the mid '90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have, and I was there in the mid '90s, so I joined in 1995. God help us.
That was my next question. When did you get started over there? Yeah,
but
you said 25 years. I guess I could have did the math.
Yeah, but we had lots of blind people saying, I want to use this, and can you help make it accessible?
Absolutely. Hey, so so Tim, Native Instruments. I mean, my God. Let me spin back a little bit with you, Tim. You have an interesting background, man. I was going through your bio. I'm like,
yeah.
When did this dude jump off the moon? That's what I needed to know. So at Native, what is your title and what do you do over there?
So my role at Native, I'm the director of music production, and that means that I'm running the products department for really looking after Machina, the hardware and the software, and then Complete Control hardware and software. And then we also make three smaller audio interfaces, but the primary role is Machina and Complete Control.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So okay, so Tim, because
I need to add that Tim got his start and all of his expertise when he worked at Avid. So
obviously.
Yeah, Ed likes to take the verbal gloves off and just start swinging. That's how he does it, right?
It was an informative time for sure.
Yeah. And so Tim, what pushed Native? What was the driving force behind making things accessible over there?
I think with this, it's something that, I started at Native around 7 years ago, coming up 7 years ago now. And as Ed said, I actually came from Avid, who I joined in 2006. And prior to that was working with Sibelius software from 99. So it's this kind of long kind of gestation period of moving into music tech. And I think for Native, along the way, I've obviously known many fantastic musicians who are blind or visually impaired, along with other kind of accessibility, issues, physically disabled as well. And I think, it's just always been something that for me, music feels like this thing that, everyone should be able to be involved in and work with. And we actually had this thing at Native where I actually joined at the point where Complete Control Mark 1 was in development. So there were certain things, a lot of the hardware decisions were made, and then I supported with the software side of it, which is obviously where a lot of the kind of powering of it comes from, so to speak. And I'd always thought, we had these capacitive knobs, they were already there. And I really felt, this is about taking instruments outside of the computer and making them physical. That's what the device was all about and what the hardware was about. Right. And, so it seemed to me like a very obvious connection that essentially what we were doing is having a bunch of parameters mapped to knobs, as a starting point. And it was really something that just came from myself and then a colleague of mine called Carl Bussey, who's actually at Isotope now. But we worked together at Native, and we had this idea. I kind of talked to him. I'd had this idea of how we could do it and talk to him. And we had these hack days introduced back in, I think it was 2015, something like that.
Yeah.
So we took this as an opportunity to try this, and build this kind of prototype. And that was kind of really where it all began. It was just something that was important to both of us. And then from there, it kind of started to get more attention and more traction at the company, because I think there were a lot of like-minded people, even though Native hadn't done anything in this regard. Prior to that, there were a lot of very like-minded people. So it really kind of grew out from there. And then, eventually we got to the point where Andre Louis enters the picture.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
We had this
Absolutely.
kind of first build, and then we wanted to obviously just see if it really would work. So Andre was one of the key people in helping us to actually get it from this kind of prototype and then actually get it something that we could release and then build on over the following years.
Now let me ask you, Andre Louis, did you guys, rest on that idea as an option, because he can play like the drums, he can play all through the keyboard, he could play the bass, he could play the keyboard, the keys themselves, the strings, and make it sound like a full-on band by himself. So it's like you guys only have to pay one guy to do anything for you. Is that why you guys chose him, or is it just because he's just brilliant?
All of the above. No, I mean, it was actually a really interesting situation, because Andre, who can also speak to this, Andre had emailed Native, and at the same time, I was in touch with the RNIB in the UK, and they recommended that I speak to Andre. And so he had assumed, so I sent him an email and we started talking, and he came in, and we both had assumed for years and years or he had assumed rather for years and years that it was because of that email, but that I never received that email. So for a long time, we kind of somehow were destined to work on this thing together, even though it was a kind of alignment of the stars. I think that
Sure.
we got lucky, and I got to meet Andre, and then, as I say, Andre's played a major role. He's also been over to Native in Berlin, and done a bunch of things there and all these kinds of things. So, yeah.
So Ed, because that's so. Not to make any comparisons, but I mean, come on. I mean, Slough is kind of that guy to Avid, right? Like that's the same type of relationship that's there.
Well, we meet our beta testers and inputters from the damnedest places. So there's one top beta tester, Mike Lockett. We met him after he reported us to the Better Business Bureau.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Come on, guys. That's funny. That's how we met him.
Yeah, that's. I mean, and that's the way things work, right? I mean,
but seriously, the point I would make is that we, there's some of this innovation that happens kind of internally, where it's a spark and someone has an idea. That's how the Sony Walkman was invented. The Sony Walkman was invented by the chairman of Sony. He came into a board meeting. He said, I want to have something without a recorder and without speakers. And someone said, no recorder, no speakers, are you crazy? And he said, no, I'm chairman. And the Walkman was made without any external market research. So that's part of the approach. But really, we would be dead in the water without input from all of our beta testers and customers. And I think that's how the best of audio companies innovate. They have forums and discussions. They connect with people at trade shows, and together they get input on the most important features. And then it's the job of the company to prioritize the features. Now, as you mentioned, Slough is, as much as he would be bashful and not say it, I consider him the Lord God King of feature prioritization. So
absolutely,
he
100%.
He has long had the real world perspective to talk about what features are, kind of the things that take moments to fix, that are low hanging fruit, and some big things we can grab onto and tackle. And we have a lot of people working on that effort. But I trust Slough deeply to prioritize this stuff. Slough has also gone to the Ukraine to work with our staff there on his own nickel. He happens to be Ukrainian, but so that helps. has visited Avid and has spent days at a time with our engineers. So again, I believe I'm Avid's sole blind employee, but
Okay.
it's the input from these beta testers, just keeping an eye on what users want and helping us prioritize features.
Well, let me drag Slough into this kicking and screaming here.
Oh, shucks.
So Slough, first of all, studio owner, producer, vocalist, guitarist,
Barely.
keyboardist. We could keep it going if you want. I don't know. Because Ed mentioned beta testing. We all know that this is a part of the world when software is being released into the wild.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize these builds and beta? Like I'm curious to know that myself.
Yeah, I think what really helps. I mean, I know myself day to day what I encounter as an individual in the studio. I mean, in the sort of heat of battle, I know which stumbling blocks there are. That is just by the nature of using the software every single day. But what also really helps is being active in the community. I mean, I have this, I moderate the PT Access mailing list, which is a Google Groups mailing list. I moderate the one of the moderators of the PT Access WhatsApp group, and these groups are very active with people, especially the WhatsApp group. And you see every day what people struggle with, what they encounter, and also it's just also very helpful to while helping others. I mean, sometimes I might not know the answer to their question, but I know how to figure it out, and so I go through the motions to say, oh, let me see how you do that. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's how you do it. And I learn myself just by solving other people's problems whenever I can. And it's it's a daily activity. I might only spend 15 minutes one day, but I might spend an hour another day doing this stuff. But yeah. And so you basically get to know what are the top things that affect people on a daily basis, and then we have a spreadsheet. We work with Avid, obviously, to sort of keep these lists of bugs up to date, and sort of put the stuff that affects the most people right there at the top.
Yeah. So me being a part of the list, being blind, being part of the community. I think that is a powerful concept, having your thumb on the pulse, from a lot of angles. It's not just one thing. And I think what's fascinating is that you're kind of a direct in, just as Andre is too, I would believe, to like for Native. It's like the conduit. You guys are the coupling from the user back to the product manufacturer, and I think that is hyper important.
Well, and I would have to also, yes, I'll agree, but and also add that to have people like Ed and Tim in these companies, sort of representing the company's sort of perspective, is obviously super helpful, because look, there are hundreds of beta testers, in both companies, I'm sure. There are many thousands of users in general. And of course, everybody wants attention, and everybody, has issues that they want resolved and features that they want to see implemented and stuff like that. And let's face it, the blind community is certainly relatively small in comparison to these bigger groups. But sometimes these bugs or feature requests to a blind user, they mean the difference between being able to use the software or not.
Yes.
And so to be able to have kind of, a contact on the inside and basically say, you know what, this feature right here is really, really important. And they hear it. And, sometimes those features or those bugs, they can't get fixed right away. But, you need to be assured that they hear us, and these things do get fixed over time. Users have to also remember that, sort of corporate time frames, timetables are very different from what you might get from a small developer. A small developer can do a bug fix overnight.
Right.
That's just not possible with a big corporation.
Yeah.
But, that's just something that the user base has to kind of keep in mind.
Absolutely. Hey, so did Andre chime in yet? Is he in it? Is he in the building? Cool. So, hey, Andre, welcome, sir.
Andre is actually in the attendee
Yes.
side. He is not actually on the panelist.
Okay. Okay, so we probably
should I forward a link to Andre?
Link if you can, yeah.
Andre, I'm forwarding you an email.
Hey, so I think you can turn him into
good point.
a likey too as well.
Yes, I just did that.
Hello there.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey.
Man.
To make Tim feel better.
Yeah.
Man, we throwing this dude right in the fire, man.
Yeah, Andre, you're Tim's spirit animal, and Slough is my spirit animal.
Exactly. And Ed, it's great to hear your voice again, son. Hopefully you're feeling better from the last
Thank
time.
you very much. And I've enjoyed your I've enjoyed your piano concerts on Facebook.
Oh, thanks.
So,
awesome.
You're fantastic.
So Andre, let me ask you a question, man. Because I know you get inundated with requests to run back to native and say, hey, this needs to happen. Hey, this needs to happen. How in the boop do you prioritize that in those millions of requests that you probably receive on the daily?
I have to think about it in the way that if it is going to impact your usage of something in the short term and immediately, I'm going to forward that on. So we have a prime example in the complete WhatsApp group the other day.
Oh, yeah.
You will remember. There was somebody who bought a particular product from NI, and this product is the first of its kind in that when you go to some of the patches within this product, you are presented with a tutorial that means that you cannot play the keyboard. You are stopped until you click next 3 times in an inaccessible dialogue. This I thought was worth escalating, and I escalated it forcefully.
Yes.
You see, now, Andre, I thought you were going to mention a different one altogether, which affects way more people, which is the
pedals.
idea of no, bank.
Oh, that's coming.
Oh, okay. Cat's out of the bag. Okay.
Cat's out of the bank. That's an interesting one, though. Truly.
Okay. No, sorry.
But these guys bring up a good point, which is that in a company with as much as I sound like a corporate apologist, a limited number of engineering resources, we have to pick and choose what we get to, and so it means that you have something that looks like it's 2 lines of code to fix. And our users are like, oh my God, why can't you get to that? And the answer is that things are scheduled, they're put into a queue, they have engineers assigned to them, they're prioritized, they could be knocked off the block in favor of some other urgent situation. So so not knowing how the sausage is made, it looks like we're moving too slow, but in fact we're tackling this and a bunch of other priorities. And then and so you have people like Tim and me who advocate for blind users using not only the arguments, if you did it based on the percentage of our users that were blind, we'd be here all day, pushing a rock uphill. Because I've been doing some research with the World Health Organization and stuff like that. I think that something like half of 1% of our users can't see the screen well enough to work on Pro Tools, and maybe another 3% can't see it well, or they get fatigue, or they have low vision.
Sure.
So so you have to make arguments for those low vision users. You have to make an argument that even a perfectly sighted user staring at a Pro Tools screen all day, their eyes are going to fall out of their head. They're going to get fatigued. And so these things like voiceover support and other screen tools can help partially sighted and sighted users. And also, from a programming point of view, if you program for accessibility, you are programming for usability and inclusiveness. You're programming interfaces to make them more robust, so that different people with different visual and hearing and cognitive and mobility issues can use them.
Tell Roland Cloud that, will you? Thanks.
No, I mean, I would really second that. I have to say that, for me, I actually came from product design with music technology. And, there's so many examples of this where you can just end up creating. One of my favorite examples is something that we were developing, which was the effects support in Complete Control. And we had early builds where there were however many interactions. I forget the exact number now, but however many interactions to actually, load an effect into slot 1 of your effects chain, for example. And it becomes very interesting when you say to someone who's testing that, sighted or otherwise, okay, now turn on voiceover and see what happens, and suddenly there's this realization, wow, this is insane. We could do this in 3 steps. And this is that's one example of many, many, many examples. And I think it makes you very disciplined to make sure that you're actually creating a UX that is better, is faster, is more efficient. So for me, it really comes under this whole user interface topic. It's not even, for me at least, it's not really even an extension. It's just part of that, and that's obviously a lot easier when you're making new products than retrofitting.
And then you're going back into it. Yeah, for sure. Hey, so let me well, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor because I know we may have questions, but so Tim, I'm just curious to know because I could keep asking you guys questions like just because I want to know myself, and so I guess we have to be mindful of people actually what they're here for, but. How does the process kind of go when, let's just say Andre comes in, he says, hey, look, guys, this is an issue. And then like from there, how do you tackle that issue? Like how does that internally happen if that's not proprietary information?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely tell you. I mean, it does very much depend on what the topic is. I think it's fair to say. So, I mean, recently, and I know this, at least I'm sure this one will come up. Andre, you already mentioned the pedal issue that we had with it using its settings. There's things like that. Like that one's been awful, and that one's awful for everyone. And it's one of those really nasty ones that's intermittent and only happens on certain computers. And as Ed will testify, these are the worst because we still can't reproduce it in-house.
Yeah.
So we're heavily reliant,
Yeah, if you don't have a reproducible case, no one will talk to you.
Exactly. And that's a good example of one that, okay, we need to fix this. It's very clear, but how you actually go about that becomes very, very difficult. The good news is for everyone on this group, we do have a fix. Andre has it, and it seems to have fixed it. So I think we're good.
So far, so good, guys. So far, so good.
Yeah. So hopefully that will be out soon.
Very cool.
But I mean, that's kind of one example. And then, they're sort of more bugs. And really, bugs always take a certain level of priority because obviously it's something that's not working correctly with the product.
Sure.
So we would essentially put those into our backlog of items. So we use a tool called Jira, which I assume Avid's
Jira,
essentially everybody uses Jira. And this is essentially a kind of tracking tool that allows you to prioritize. And then we use essentially Scrum, a methodology called Scrum. So we have teams that are led by product owners. And I think I'd like to make a special mention actually to Adil Ganti, who's one of the product owners who's also done a lot of work in this area and continues to do so actually, especially since I moved into being a director, and he's now looking after a lot more of this, which is great.
Yes.
And he's one of the people who would then take that and discuss with me and with his team, what the effort is to fix and what the priority is to fix from an urgency perspective, and then balance that with everything else that's happening with regards to releasing new products. So that's like a bug. And then a feature, it's a similar sort of thing with a feature. It's just that features obviously have a different priority by definition because they're about adding things.
Yeah.
And that's where it's really the same conversation that you're having, but you're looking at it more from the perspective of, you know, what are the actually, as Ed said earlier, and what Slough said, actually, it's exactly the same thing. You're prioritizing about how, you know, the kind of benefit and then the cost of creating that feature. And this is any feature, right? This is regardless. And that's really, you know, that's really the process, and then it gets put in the list.
Sure
and
thing. Sure
get
thing.
to it, along with all the other things that are, of course, always coming up. So it's an ongoing process. It's not one that happens once.
Absolutely.
It's been happening every few weeks.
It's a good segue, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna open this floor up, man. Because
You know, I was going to make one more comment about that.
Please
and
do.
I think Avid uses very similar. We use Jira, so you know. So a couple of comments when you have things logged as bugs or features. Remember, you know, Avid is always in a bath of feature requests and bugs, and everyone's just the most important. So unless they go through this process where they're kind of the bugs are ranked according to pervasiveness and severity and reproducibility and what OS they're on, unless you're disciplined about that system, the whole thing breaks down, and there's no framework for who works on what. So it's important to have these tools. You can't just it's very different from a startup company where where you know people just say like I got it and they handle it overnight. And the other thing, there's a famous poster with Iron Mike Tyson, the boxer, getting punched in the face so hard that his face is
contorted. Yeah.
And it says a plan is great until you get punched in the face. And so you can be, you know, working on a feature or bug, and something else at Avid is going to mow your lawn. Some other feature from NHK Studios in Japan is going to come in and pull resources away, or we're going to have this trade show thing creeping up where we have to pull resources off. So a capable company, you know, kind of manages this whole collection of bugs and feature requests and is able to adapt in real time. And it's kind of a living organism you have to manage.
It's a juggling act as well. Yeah. And one thing that I have to just comment on is that I don't think that the average user realizes that in the sort of like the beta environment, you know, because we see hundreds of bugs being logged, the crazy combinations of sort of scenarios that you would never think of doing, but they lead to a crash or something like a, you know, where you need a hard reboot or something like that. People don't realize that it's, you know, beta testing is not just booting up the program and record enabling one track and saying, yeah, it's all good, you know, because now instantiate this plugin while doing this at this frame rate, while also enabling elastic audio, and boom, something like happens. People don't realize that like these beta testers try to create these scenarios that you would never think of, but they produce significant bugs, and there are hundreds and hundreds of these things. Yeah. So it is a juggling act.
Yeah.
It's our job to make them pull their hair out long before time.
Yeah, I pulled my hair out a long time ago.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. This first question comes from PDEX through Gmail, and he says, my questions are towards the Native Instruments representatives. My first question is, are there any plans to make any more of their Native Instruments software accessible similar to Complete Control? If so, which ones, please?
Thanks for that question.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Obviously, I can only talk about certain things in the future. But what I would say is that it's a topic that is constantly discussed, and it's, you know, one that we already have. I mean, I think what I can say is that we've already have in beta a version of Machina that allows you to access it via the keyboard. So it doesn't cover everything, but it's really this first step towards that. And I very much hope that we can then kind of build that out from there. It also depends very much on so I think, you know, actually talking to Ed's point about why some of these things take a long time, certain products are not quite the vintage of Pro Tools, but, you know, Contact, I think, was introduced, I think it's around 18 years ago, something like that. And, you know,
say about the year 2000, if I were to guess.
was it 2000 already? So yeah, just over. You know, that comes with its own challenges. You know, these products have evolved over a very long time. And one of the very important things when it comes to accessibility in software itself is the actual front-end technology that you're using. And there are many different kinds out there at the moment. So we currently use our own for a lot of products. And, you know, moving between these is an enormous amount of work. And that doesn't mean that it's not something you want to be doing. It's definitely something we want to be doing, but it's kind of a precursor. Whereas you look at something, it's much smaller, but you look at something like Native Access that is built with Qt, that was a lot easier. Still great work from the product owner, Zippy, on that. But
that is a beautiful app now.
Yeah, you know, and that was easier because it was new and it was already built with with Qt. And these things, of course, weren't an option 20 years ago. So it can get very complicated in that regard. It's a very long-winded answer to your question. I realize.
So Qt actually does what in relation with the native product?
So Qt is essentially a development toolkit, and it allows you to build products. You know, certain kinds of products it's especially well suited for. And what it gives you then is the capability to actually add voiceover support to your application.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's something you have to basically build the hooks, and then you can hook into the OS.
Absolutely.
And activate that.
Absolutely.
So you know, I guess coming back to the original question, it's something that we're always talking about and always looking at. And, you know, I very much hope to see it coming to more products in the future, you know, as we continue to develop them. But of course, I can't say for sure on, I can't give you a definitive list, unfortunately.
You have to kill us.
But keep talking to us about it. You know, it's really important that the conversation continues.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you about to say something, Ed?
Well, Tim just brings up an important point, and it's kind of nerdy. I mean, I don't know where our attendees are from, but this idea of UI frameworks and programming frameworks is incredibly valuable. That Qt has a way to bring an app or a plugin to market with accessibility rapidly. Pro Tools and a lot of plugins use the Juice framework. And it turns out, and this is kind of a little mini announcement, Pace purchased Juice.
What?
Pace is our license management platform.
Bombshell.
Yes.
Bombshell. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I'm shocked.
Gosh, sorry, I didn't tell you.
I did not know that.
Wow. And Slough and everyone, you'll be pleased to know that Pace is 100% committed to getting the Juice tools up to speed.
Absolutely.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That's a big
If I didn't hear anything else today, that has made my day.
Yeah, so I don't mean to say that as a commercial, just to say that, you know, you build these things using framework tools that help prototype and bring stuff to market. And if those things aren't up to speed with accessibility, it can be hell on earth to deliver something that's accessible. So it's a good
and Pace is actually a great success story in terms of their software. You know, the users who use iLok License Manager know that at a certain point it was not accessible at all. And you know, we bugged them and stuff, and they said, "Yeah, we'll get to it." But they finally did. And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, iLok License Manager is 100% accessible.
Mac and Windows and everything.
On both platforms.
You know, go ahead, Ed. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Juice was, you know, they were under some pressure to make their tools accessible, and they wanted to do a GoFundMe and have people fund it. It just never just never got
Never
traction.
materialized. Sure.
But also, Ed, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, the cost of making something accessible, there is significant cost involved. And I think another success story that we haven't mentioned is Sibelius. I mean,
Yeah, we haven't talked about
Sibelius.
Sibelius.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole nother webinar.
Absolutely.
But the idea is that Sibelius is really kind of rewritten, and that is a Qt application as well.
Yeah.
And Sibelius is now, and it's continuing to be made more and more accessible. But I mean, what was kind of behind part of it, the impetus was really a grant that was submitted by Berkeley College of Music.
Yeah.
And so it is expensive. And so like internally within the companies, when you have this sort of proposition of the work of accessibility, I mean, this costs money. So like internally, how are things viewed, or how are they assessed?
That's a good question.
Does anybody calculate? Like, I mean, there are people who are like running numbers in their heads somewhere along the line, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, if they don't make Pro Tools accessible, I threaten to sue the company. No,
Nice.
Somehow I believe that.
no. I think it's kind of what I talked about before. I think if you take the percentage of blind users in isolation, you're not going to get very far. So you have to make corollary arguments about partially sighted people, about programming for accessibility, helping sighted people and people with other limitations. And then there's a whole other narrative about how accessibility helps create goodwill, helps our brand, helps our reputation, brings new users to the party. This is, the accessibility story for Pro Tools and Sibelius is like, there's nothing we enjoy talking about more. It's just a goodwill story, and it's making people very happy. And it's bringing people in that couldn't.
It's doing the right thing.
Yeah. So it's the right thing. And then I'll just say in the same breath that that there's some legal pressure to do it too. So the story with kind of legal and ADA compliance up to say 2018 was that it was hard to make an ADA claim unless it was a website that was a portal to a physical location. So Winn-Dixie supermarkets got sued into last Sunday because their website wasn't accessible. But now more and more, if you look at Avid, in many respects, the website is the company. Subscribe to Pro Tools,
absolutely.
You renew it, you consume tutorial, you get upgrades, you buy plugins in the marketplace, and the website is the company. And so it's not just an idle problem. I think that if we don't keep upping our game with accessibility with our website and our products, we face legal exposure.
I think this goes back to native as well, doesn't it? I mean, Tim, if you think, I think I can safely say alone I probably sold 50 units, and that's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's 50 more than you'd had yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's,
so build on that.
I mean, it wasn't the traditional thing that you do when you build a new product, of course, is you do your market research, you build your business case, and so on and so forth. And I think it's always an interesting one for products that are already in the market because it's inherently different. But nonetheless, there are aspects to that. And I think, from the native perspective, or actually from the music technology world perspective, there is an element there's an aspect of this which is also social responsibility. I mean, it's something that should be done. It's like it really is the right thing to do.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So that's kind of one aspect. And then business case, I think it's I've used examples, and Ed and myself and Slough, and Byron, in fact, we all spoke at NAMM this year. And I think the business case is always an interesting one because nobody really likes to talk about it, of course. And I think, as from what I said about complete control, it wasn't a question of here's a business case, let's do it. But I think what is interesting is that, to smaller companies is just to know that we didn't create it with a business case in mind, but it actually caught attention, and I'm pleased to say it's very, very popular, and it has made a difference, a very genuine difference. And I think I say that more as a kind of note to smaller companies where there may be, you know, it's really challenging to kind of prioritize things, and I can say, look, you know, for us, this actually, you know, that there was a return here, even though that wasn't the motivation to do it. So I think it's a good kind
give some thought to accessible programming early in the design process, so it becomes kind of a matter of fact that you're committed to developing and testing for accessibility, not doing it as an afterthought.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, Tim mentioned this NAM panel that we did together. Tim, Slough, Byron, myself, and I am tardy in getting the videos up. But if you want to see the premier explanation of the business case, that case is made by Tim Adnett. So I promise that
so eloquently too.
Absolutely.
It's in a British accent, so everyone believes what it says.
It's like.
Great. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Wonderful. This question comes from Tony Gebhard. Timothy, Ed, thank you, gentlemen, for doing this for us today. I'm an avid Native Instruments lover, no pun intended. I fell in love with Complete Control 12 along with my S49 controller. My question today is for Timothy. What is Native's plans for the future on making Contact an accessible platform for voiceover on the Mac? And same with the external program of Complete. This would be an outside instance of Contact. To digress, would it be plausible to ever use Contact's instance on a track with the Complete controller? Thanks again.
Wow.
Cheers.
Wow. He was getting it
Tim,
in.
you're getting these roadmap questions left and right.
Trying to figure it out. This cat's trying to figure it out. Tim.
You know, I think it's, I guess I already touched on this to some extent.
Yes.
So, you know, with Contact as it is today, it's definitely a big job, but Contact is obviously also a product that continues to develop. So it's definitely part of the conversation for its future. It's very hard to say right now. You know, we're considering lots of different options around these. And obviously there's a limit to how much I can talk directly about that roadmap topic.
No worries. Yeah.
But, you know, in general, I would say it's, you know, as I mentioned before, I think it's important that we continue to have the conversation. I would say it's something that's important to keep raising because, you know, for example, the Google mailing list is something that myself and several of my colleagues read every single post on, and we may not reply to everything, but we're always looking at that. And I think it's important to just explain, you know, why these things matter, because it always helps us to then understand them, you know, better from these different perspectives. So it's hard to say right now for sure, but I can definitely say that you know, it's a very key part of what we talk about as we look into the future.
Sure. So I mean, go ahead, Likey. We're gonna go with another.
And can I just point out just one thing quickly about this message, which started out with I'm an avid and Native Instruments fan. I have to say, no, this is a serious point. Okay. I have to say that that the work that Avid does and that Native Instruments does on accessibility, with the support that we see from them, I mean, it really does lead to a kind of user/brand loyalty that really creates evangelists. Andre is an evangelist for Native Instruments, for Complete Control. I am an evangelist for Pro Tools. Because these, you know, the kind of loyalty that you get is like you get practically fanatics, and I think that you can't buy that. You know, you can't put a price on that. And yeah. Anyway, just wanted to point that out.
That's a good point, Slough. That's a good point because I mean, obviously, right? Like especially in the blind community, where not everything is accessible to us, and when it is, and it's done well, it's like, oh my God,
you made a fan for life, and you did
for life. Exactly.
Evangelists play an important role, and so do, I don't know what you call them. You call them needlers or big complainers or whatever. Just our beta test group is not always. It's not always pretty. It's not always a mutual backpatting session.
That's for sure.
It's Avid, why the F isn't this ready? And so it's important to create a group of, and it's not like more beta testers are better. It's about creating a core of people that are honest
Good
and
point,
frank
Ed.
and have a
Good
pulse
point.
on what is needed, and that they call you out when you're not prioritizing stuff properly.
Smaller team, you can react like a Porsche instead of a Titanic. You saw what happened to the Titanic. So, next question, Aliki.
Great. This question comes from Facebook, and to all those who are watching the Facebook live stream, please feel free to ask your questions. I will ask the panelists.
Absolutely.
Send a lot of angry faces.
That's because of my face.
So Nils asks, will complete control ever be fully implemented in Logic? Actually, it says INPT, like in Logic. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but hopefully you do.
I think it works quite well in Logic. I'm quite confused.
I was about to say, it's like
it may be a question that there is like an intermittent issue, another one of those special bugs, where the connection drops from the recent Logic 10.5 update. Perhaps you're referring to that. And that's something that, again, we have a first fix for that I believe you've received, Andre, or if not, you will very soon.
I hope so.
It's one of those.
I've never seen it drop, though. You see, maybe because I'm such a fanatic. It's never dropped for me. What can I say?
Yeah, it's a real interesting one because, again, it's one that I've seen myself once and never again. So, but we've worked on that as well. Perhaps it's talking about that, and that's where
did that say INP? Did you read that INP?
Correct. It says
I'm wondering if the person meant in PT, because Pro Tools does not have host integration, and I'm wondering whether they're talking about
I think Niels is a Pro Tools user.
Niels is a Pro Tools user.
Yeah. So I mean
yes.
That would make sense. Oh yeah.
We actually had a really good. We've been talking about it actually. I mean, obviously, because I still have a lot of friends at Avid as well. But we've been talking about it for a long time.
Well, this is the real reason why I brought you guys on here, was for this.
Yeah, right. I mean, in January at NAM, I met Francois, or reconnected with Francois actually, who's the director for Pro Tools from the product side.
Yep.
And we've been having some really good conversations about it. So
nice.
I hope that it's something we can make happen. A lot's changed on both sides technically. So I don't want to speak for Avid's roadmap, that's for sure. But I think it feels more possible than it's ever felt before.
It's seamless in Logic. Hey, Andre, like what is your actual setup over there?
I'm running a MacBook Pro 2019 15-inch because I was 3 weeks too early for the 16, and I'm pissed about it, but still. And then I have a Complete Control S61 Mark II, and I gig with this as well. So when I'm on stage, my one and only and primary keyboard I sold on my hardware is the Complete. So I'm using Complete in Logic on stage and at home all the time.
You're using the NI interface too, right?
I do. I use the Complete Audio 2 on stage and the Complete Audio 6 Mark II at home because I just can't get enough apparently. So that's stuck in that world.
Yeah, I just want people to know because I mean, my God, that it's seamless. It seems like to me. I know you said you weren't getting any drops seamless in there. It is impressive. I work with it in Pro Tools, but it's some stuff I have to do. But the way that you were moving through the tracks and not even touching the computer was ridiculous. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Next question. Let's get to the next question.
Wonderful. I'm gonna go live. We have Steve Martin.
Steve. Ooh.
Hey, the panel's almost back together.
Steve, you're live.
Hello. Am I audible?
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey. So I just had a question for Tim regarding stuff like using drums and things like that, because mapping is a problem as far as bussing stuff out to individual buses and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done about that in the future. I know you can't give specific answers for products that aren't released yet or stuff like that, but I'm wondering, is there is that part of the conversation as far as accessibility and making something like that be a little bit more usable for us?
Yeah. So here you're talking about essentially having like your kick on one channel, snare on the next, and so on.
Right. And that's stuff you can't do from the complete control keyboard and stuff. That's something
unless it's already set up on the board. Right, exactly. So I mean, you can have a multi, but yeah, you have to have the setup on the contact side, so to speak.
Right.
It's not actually something we've discussed, but I think it's really great that you bring it up because it's a very good point. You know, especially with things like battery and those kinds of things running in there, and all the contact-based libraries from us, but also from all the people who write great instruments for contact. It's a good one for us to discuss, I think.
Right, because that's my biggest holdup with Complete right now, because as I'm a Logic user myself, and given the variety of sound that you get with Logic, and the ease of mapping things out to your kicks to a bus and all that.
That's fair.
But the thing, as someone that works in a lot of harder rock genres, metals, things like that, the Logic sounds always don't hold up, and a lot of the third-party libraries are contacts, so it's kind of like this trade-off of, okay, I like those sounds, but I don't have the flexibility with those sounds.
Right.
So that's kind of the one big thing that's kind of kept me on the fence so far. I just wanted to know.
I'm going to change your mind, Steve. I'm going to weigh you down.
I'm sure you will. As it stands, I'm already slipping off the fence onto the complete control side. So, you might get me there a little sooner rather than later.
Come on, Steve. The water's nice.
It's warm on your side, right?
Thanks for the question, Steve. That's what's up.
All right, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, no doubt. All right, like what we got?
We have Pradeep from Q&A. What is your plan to make the preference window of complete control for Windows or Mac accessible? Also, the window, where can we set up our pedal?
Oh, good one.
Yeah. So, right now we basically, all of the accessibility is coming from the hardware, obviously, and that was I think we felt it was the right entry point because the point of the product was about the hardware, obviously. So it's a better place to start. And what that would then be talking about is the screen readability of the software, which again comes down to these tech stack questions of front-end UI frameworks. And that's actually why it's not something that we can do easily right now. So it's one of those things, again, that seems very straightforward, but actually it's even impossible right now, actually.
This is partly because of your own graphics frameworks, isn't it?
It's to do with the frameworks that are used, yeah. I'm not from engineering, so I couldn't tell you all of the deep details. But essentially, we need a different, or we need to add voiceover support to that, or we need to have a different UI framework to achieve those kinds of things. So both of these things are potentially possible, and they're both things that are being looked at, because I know that's, we kind of decided, okay, well, we'll focus on the DAW use case first. And that was actually one of the decisions we made with Andre actually back in the day, where obviously preferences are at least in terms of audio setup and MIDI setup are not quite as important. But that was really the idea then. So I hope it can come at some point. And then the pedal is actually exactly the same situation. So the pedal settings are, again, something you can only currently do in the software. And again, a topic that Andre and I have talked quite a lot about. So it's about to unlock all of that, you have to have your UI framework supporting that. And after that, it's not trivial. It's not easy, but it's doable. It can be done. So it's definitely something that's on our radar, and it's definitely something we want to do. So yeah, I would hope that it's something again, it's really impossible to give a time frame, unfortunately, but it's something that's very high on the list, in terms of things that would need to happen. And the preferences dialer would be essentially the first obvious step for us to take if we look at a kind of prioritization of the overall UI, because most of it can be done from the hardware, but there are these things that you can only do in the software. So
very well.
Before you carry on, Tim, because if I don't ask this, I will actually be lynched. When I go back to the complete WhatsApp group, they will be like, you didn't ask this.
You did.
There are about 768 people, starting with Kevin Reeves, Kavina Revez, Kavina, and Jamez Berry. And so many people want to know the simple question of when, not if, because they are very demanding, when will the A series and M series get banks?
Yes.
This is like stopping people buying the keyboards right now.
That's what I was saying earlier. Yes.
I mean, again, it's I always
This is the one.
All the roadmap questions, right?
It's not if, when.
Yeah.
I mean, battery's a prime example. It's the native first product, and you can't use it. If you buy a new expansion, forget using it on the A series. You just can't find the kits.
Right. I mean, at least you can't filter by the ones in that bank alone, right? I mean,
No.
presets are there, but you can't filter by the bank. That's it's hard to say exactly when, but I think again, it's something that that could be looked at for sure. You know, that's something that is within the much more within the realms of possibility and more to do with the limitations of the device itself.
That's the point. Why didn't it happen? Is it the LED screen? Because I was trying to explain to somebody, but not being able to see myself, I didn't quite understand it.
It was actually because moving through the 4D encoder, it was felt we wanted to reduce the number of options, you know, and clicks to try to simplify it a little bit.
But wasn't that only simplified by one click then?
In that case, yeah. But it was just trying to reduce some of these. That was the main rationale. But I think it's a really interesting point, you know, because there was a lot of research done around that with various people, and I think it's always one of those that somehow falls 50-50.
Right. I confess I was not one of these people, because I would have said from day zero,
Yeah, I don't know.
I love you guys, but
Good point. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one that, at least from a technical perspective, is something that can be done. It's a lot. I mean, it can all be done. It's all, you know, in the end. But it's one of those things that's easier to reach because it doesn't require any massive change to, you know, the fundamental part of the code. So I think that's one that is noted. So,
well, you will hear a football fan yell when you do that one. I can guarantee it. Everybody in the world is going to be like, yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if
that question comes. No one's asking us any roadmap questions, which means either we're doing fine or you've all lost hope for us.
Ask Ed some of these hard roadmap questions.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see that question down the line.
Static.
Like what we got.
Great. Jay Breeze is about to go live.
All right. Jay Breeze.
Hey.
Beat mate.
Jay, we see your name.
Hey.
You're still on mute, I think.
There we go. Hey, brother. How you feeling?
Oh, man, I'm great, man. I want to say thank you to Avid and Native Instruments for being a beacon, man, because you guys are like really leading the charge in accessibility for what we do. And for me, I greatly appreciate it, man. And shout out to all the panelists up there. Those are my friends, great group of guys. You know what I'm saying? But make this real short and sweet. Andre actually is the reason I got complete control to begin with. I saw his complete control and I was blown away back in 16. And right now I'm a machine user. I'm a super machine user. I use machine every day. And I know you can't go into great detail, but I was wondering, as far as timeline for accessibility, like what do we look forward to? And do we need to get new hardware? I currently have an MK3 and an S61 Mark II.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the first part of that, so the S61 MK2 connection to Machina, we have some early builds of that, and I definitely invite you to join our beta group for that if you're willing to take a look at that already. Andre has seen this, and we're just really working out, you know, is what's there, does it make sense? You know, does it act well as a workflow? Because it doesn't cover 100% of Machina, simply because the S61 itself doesn't, right? Yeah. And then bringing it to the other controllers, it's something that, you know, essentially our first step was, so we built this in complete control, like the overall picture, we built it in complete control for the Mac first, then we ported it to Windows, then to Mark II, A series, etc. And then what we did is, essentially take what we've done for Complete Control and get that inside Machina, connecting and talking to Complete Control keyboards as a first step. And then that means that the actual kind of engine and backend is in Machina. And then we can start to think about how we can bring that, to, for example, the Machina Mark III, which is, obviously still a very key piece of hardware. I mean, it's also, I guess interesting for me as well, is that I didn't used to work on Machina. On and off I did, but I only recently started to work on that part. So it's only really going back, not even a year yet. So it's still, thinking about what kinds of things we could do there in that regard. But it would be great, really great, if you have the time to get.
Oh yeah, definitely.
On what is there? It's it's a first step, and it's like a first workflow. So I definitely don't want to oversell that, but it would be brilliant to get more input because. I mean, Andre, you've been giving us great feedback as well, but
you need a real Machina user, and I don't have
exactly.
a controller.
This guy's making beats like for real, like at a real level.
It would be fantastic,
100%.
And we also have the other thing I was saying. We're always looking far into the future, and to get various inputs on some of those ideas that may or may never happen. May happen or may never happen. That would also be great. To get these early inputs, and I can say, there are a lot of people using Complete Control, but obviously there are far fewer people who can give this kind of feedback from Machina. So it'd be fantastic.
I'd love to join, man. We will.
Maybe Byron, you could connect us.
Definitely.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
We'll do that.
Thanks,
We'll talk about Tractor as well.
Yeah, let's talk about Tractor too. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know is the simple answer.
Hey, when I saw Tractor when I was in Berlin and they showed off before it was released and they showed me the that amazing deck, the Tractor Control S4.
Yeah.
When I saw that, man, I was like, yeah, I want a DJ right now. Forget anything else. Forget accessibility. That thing was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely coming from music production. I'm definitely not a DJ, that's for sure. So, but I have to say, I really love the S4 Mark II as well. I think it's really.
I wanted one there and then, even if I couldn't use it. I was like, hell yeah.
For sure. Man, thanks, Jay Breeze. I appreciate the question.
Jay, thanks for the night.
I appreciate you, man.
For sure. So I like you.
Currently, we do not have any more questions, and I would say that Andre and Jay Breeze answered the other part of PDUX's question, unless PDUX. You feel that you have more from your Gmail question that needs to be answered. But currently all questions have been answered. And I also want to encourage, again, Facebook Livers to ask questions. Don't be shy.
Very well.
Not too late for some more roadmap questions for Tim.
Yeah. So Pro Tools 2021, Ed.
Hey, Slough, complete Ultimate 13.
Right.
Thanks, Andre. You're supposed
when,
to
not if, when.
Steve Martin has another question, so I'm gonna unmute Steve.
Sure.
Hello.
Hey. All right.
So following along with my previous question, as it regards to sitting on the fence, if I were to get off this fence,
sounds like he's
tell
getting
me
off the fence.
why I should get an S25 over an M32. This bank control. This is the thing I'm kind of trying to figure out how useful it would be for someone like me that's more interested in supplementing my sounds more so than looking at purchasing Complete or Complete Ultimate right now. Maybe Complete Select, maybe start off with Complete Start. So to me, it's more of a supplementary thing. Maybe some third-party libraries, some of the Wave stuff that's accessible, some of the third-party bass and drum sounds. But so how would I miss the bank control? Because I know there's a couple of Complete users on this panel as well as the representative from Native. So thoughts, comments?
Andre, maybe you're the
Andre.
guy.
Andre. There.
Okay, go on, Slough. You take.
No, I was just simply going to say that if you haven't used Bank, if you haven't navigated by Bank, and you're just coming into a Complete Control universe, you won't miss it because you won't know what you're missing. Okay?
Right.
So, and the nice thing is that the two keyboards, the 25 and 30. The M32, they're what? I mean, the you said the S25.
That's a
Yes,
discontinued board, by the
Yeah.
way. There is no S25.
I understand that. I've seen it. I thought I still saw it for sale on a few retailers' websites.
Oh, you
so-
want to get a Mark 1. Okay, well, the one thing I
Yes,
would say then
right.
is if it breaks, you may be screwed. So I would pick up an A25 or an S49, but then the price jumps up
Right.
significantly. So I would, you know what, I still say get an A25 or an M32. And because you don't have never used banks, you may not care.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the controllers are like, once you get into that universe, I mean, before you know it, you'll say, yeah, having the 25 or the 32 is great, but I'd like something a little bigger, whatever. And it's not like it's terribly expensive. You're already in the universe. You already have the libraries. I mean, some people use larger controllers for playing, and then just buy the M32 or an A series, for
Right, and that's probably
$150,
more
$200
the
bucks.
setup I'm looking at is when needed for working with musicians that are more piano players, having a larger controller for playing, because I'm most likely the one that's going to be working the controls while they're playing. That's usually the setup I work with clients. So that setup makes a lot more sense for my workflow. So that's why I'm looking at like either the S25, the Mark 1. So, as I understand it, you do get the bank control on that versus the M32, which, for someone like me that does travel and work with people remotely from time to time.
Yeah, go for the M32. It's super, super compact. And I hear that very soon bank selection is going to be included.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
That's what I heard. I heard it say if, not a when. I'm not quite sure where I heard that rumor, but
Man, thanks, Steve.
thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
It's funny because the M32 is not a toy. The first time I saw it and heard about it, I thought, oh no, mini keys, iRig. And then I saw it and I was like, iRig can't even touch this. The keys on the M32 are really playable. It's a very nicely built board, like everything in native so far. German engineering, I guess, at its finest, or Chinese engineering. It is brilliant. It's actually better than you'd think. Isn't that right, Slough? I mean, it's better than you'd think it would be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I simply I don't use it for playing really because right because I have another keyboard right behind me for that. But the thing is, I keep it right to my left underneath, on top of a rack. So if I just need to just do anything or tweak a sound, it's 2 feet away from me, and it fits in a 19-inch rack space. Because it's less than 19 inches wide, and I mean, what does it cost? 100?
Amazon has it for £96.
Yeah, it's like 100 something. I mean, it's just to me, it's just a no-brainer kind of purchase. And
actually, you know what? Pro Tools or anything, it doesn't matter what you're using. A board
it doesn't matter,
this,
right? It's just a keyboard. I mean, it's a keyboard that'll work.
And I know there's a guy that uses it on the train. He goes from London to Leeds all the time. It's at least 2.5, 3 hour train journey. He pulls out his M32 and makes beats on the train because he has ideas all the time. Imagine that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's really
very
really
well,
incredible.
very well. So let me ask this question too. This is for the Avid side of things. Control surfaces, man. We.
When I had this
Is
discussion.
that just a 2-word question and I can elaborate on that however I like?
Yeah. I mean, the S1s, these newer ones that came out.
There's an accessibility issue there.
Yeah. There's the way that our control surfaces talk to Pro Tools is through this networking protocol called Yukon, and
Sounds like a rapper.
Not the province in Canada. It stands for euphonics control something.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is rather than do a Band-Aid, we go in there and work to make Yukon accessible and have Yukon relay messages with voice. And it's one of those big projects that's going to take some design and planning. It's just not something we can bite off easily.
Do you think that's a whole nother beta team, the control surface department?
Yeah. And I can just without spilling the beans too much. I mean, the control surfaces part of Avid is very spread thin at the moment.
Yeah.
and it's hard to focus on this project, but it's on people's mind. It's very interesting. I should just share something, and I hope he doesn't mind. But you know, I work on Pro Tools. I lost my eyesight around 11 years ago, and that all of a sudden made me real interested in accessibility. So I have my personal reasons for giving it so much attention. And similarly, the head product manager for Yukon cares for a blind relative. So you have you know, two people at Avid have something personally vested in making this happen. So I just mentioned that to just tell you that if there's any way we can get this stuff done, we will. Just because we have our you know, have our heart and our families and ourselves invested in it. So what I would say, you know, if people have input on Yukon, you can be a guest and ride along with our beta test group. You can also write to accessibility@avid.com with your input. It's a new email alias, basically goes to me. But yeah, making the control surfaces talk and supporting Yukon for accessibility is a big project to bite off. And I think that, like Pro Tools, the you know, if 10 people tell you you're a horse, you buy a saddle. So if we get enough input and enough demand for it, we'll give it the attention it deserves.
Yeah, you know, okay, so because control surfaces obviously, you know, is like, is everything, I think, to a blind person in audio production. You know, I think Slough and I talked about that last week, but you know, and I want to drill down a little bit further, because I don't think that there's any, I mean, I don't think there's any accessible, what they would call accessible control surfaces out there, right? Like currently, I mean, I may be.
No, I think the golden egg or the holy grail is to just, you know, use Yukon. That's the layer that communicates between the control surface and Pro Tools. And if you do a gesture in Pro Tools, Yukon speaks it, and if you move a fader on the control surface, Yukon.
Yeah, but you see, but that's where we have you know, problems come in. Like some people might think that, oh, it'd be great if you know, every time you move a fader, you know, VoiceOver speaks and tells you what level you're at. I'm sorry, but that is a horrible idea.
Yeah,
that is a horrible idea, because you're mixing. You touch a fader, you know, like you're trying to mix music. You're trying to listen to music. I mean, there are certain things, of course, that you know, this kind of, you know, user feedback, it would be desirable. It would be important. But it would be super important to be able to control that. So, I mean, I think that's where this all...
You mean the verbosity of it? You mean just kind of...
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, the verbosity.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we Sibelius is again. I go back to this example. You know, there is a beta. Well, he's not a beta tester. He's just a user on one of these WhatsApp groups. He is so against like verbosity. He's like, oh, I can't stand when VoiceOver is like, you know, yapping at me, and all I want to do is enter the notes. I don't want to hear that it's a C5. I know it's a C5. You know, like, and we always use him as an example, like when we joke about on the beta team, like, can we strip down the accessibility, not for everybody, but in other words, make it a preference. And so we've gone in and actually implemented this sort of layered system of high verbosity, medium, low, and then you could get a little bit more granular and say, you know, do you want to speak the carriage position, you know, beat 1.5, or just like not even say, you know, like dotted, quartered, you know, just say what the pitch is instead, etc. And this kind of granularity in terms of verbosity, if control surface sort of verbosity was something that we got into, like really implementing and working on, that would be a must, because you're going to have such a range of people who who want to hear things and people who don't want to hear things. But I think that one of the aspects of control surface accessibility moving forward is this idea of touch screens, because so many interfaces are now touch screen.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah,
like Apogee interfaces, or anything having to do with a touch screen. It's just you're dead in the water.
Thanks,
because
Native, for not doing that.
Well, we have some bad news for you, Andre. No. No, I'm just kidding. But sometimes there are sort of workarounds right under your nose, like let's say a control app, for Pro Tools, like on an iPad, so that you could control on that, which is the app is not accessible, but I'm saying the iPad is accessible.
Right.
So, as an alternative means of accessing the touch screen on a surface itself, there are potential workarounds. But of course, so mentioning that control app, the Pro Tools sort of control app on the iPad, it's not accessible. So that's a huge barrier right now. And it's a matter of, okay, it's just something that eventually needs to be tackled somehow.
I think that I think that's a good point that brings me to this point, which is that control app in the Avid control app for Pro Tools. Is there any plans for that, Ed? Do you
for accessibility for that app?
Yeah.
No, I mean not that I know of. What I think as I listen to all this is that we should try to fold Eddie Jones. He's the Yukon and Control Surface product manager.
Yeah.
Try to beg and plead with him to participate in some of our calls so we can start developing these ideas. I feel like they've been set aside for too long.
I mean, as an entity where we actually recommend software, technology, gear to our learners. I had a guy ask me the other day, well, why is Pro Tools so special? What makes it so special other than it being the 800-pound gorilla in the room, as opposed to another DAW. And of course, me being a Pro Tools user, I mean, the things that I think that stand out in Pro Tools is really editing, it behaving kind of like, if you will, like a tape machine. That's me and my old brain and my old ways, having to be satisfied. What do you think? What do you guys think? What makes Pro Tools really special? Because all DAWs are really, honestly, really the same thing, right? Like you can do the same thing in one of the DAWs. Sometimes it may take 3 keystrokes. Sometimes it may take 2. But I'm curious to know you guys' point of view on that, especially with let me preface this a little further with last week with the folder tracks. It's like that feature had been implemented in other DAWs eons ago, but then Avid throws it into Pro Tools here. It's fabulous. It's amazing. And it's great. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. Thoughts of.
Well, I mean, I think that Pro Tools, I mean, for me as a Pro Tools user, I got into it not because of its accessibility. I got into it because all of my friends, my colleagues, other studio owners that I sort of work with, they're all using Pro Tools. So for me, it was like, okay, well, this is the platform I want to be on because, the top people in the industry are using it, and I'm just going to see if I can make it work from an accessibility standpoint. This was in the dark ages. This was, I mean, for me, from an accessibility standpoint, this was before OS 10. This is still OS 9 with a different screen reader, and actually, it worked pretty well with the screen reader at the time. And I just, that's the, for me, it from a conceptual standpoint, it worked. It wasn't the greatest sort of for MIDI work, but I wasn't doing that much MIDI work at the time and stuff. Look, I mean, I think that whatever platform you work on, look, there are a lot of blind Reaper users, and they love it, and there are a lot of blind Logic users, they love it. There are a lot of blind Pro Tools users, and they love it. I mean, I think part of what makes Pro Tools kind of attractive is that we know that we have access to the team that works on accessibility. I mean, we have direct access. On the Logic side, kind of Logic users, they kind of sit there and wait and brace themselves for the next Logic release.
Right.
See if something's going to break.
Thankfully.
Well, right now, right, but there have been a few times, where something breaks, and when it breaks, it's like like don't upgrade, whatever.
Sure.
Whereas at least with Pro Tools, at least we know that things are not going to necessarily roll backward, and with Apple, they kind of notoriously are kind of unresponsive, or historically have been, in terms of the accessibility of Logic and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm sorry. Does that sort of?
No, definitely.
Byron, though, this does lead to a really good point.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not telling you what to do. But if you ever had a thought of putting on another webinar regarding Logic, we must get David Earl in here, because he is product owner of Logic, and he is this guy that's posting on AppleVis every Logic update. He's very keen to discuss accessibility. He's very on point.
I would love that to have happen.
Would love to chat to him anyway, so that'd be great.
Please put me in contact. Please.
I'm going to.
Yeah,
please.
And Byron, your DJ friend, I keep forgetting his name, but
he's on next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a whole DJ webinar next week. Yeah.
And also, I want to mention that this is something we've talked about, and we will. I'm sure that this will happen in the future. I brought up this sort of idea of taking, a person on the Pro Tools side, which would be me, somebody from the Logic side. Actually, I think it might be Chi Kim in this case, because he really does know it extremely well. And then taking a Reaper user, and I think I know who that's going to be, and proposing kind of like a series of questions. Show us how you do this task in Pro Tools, in Logic, in Reaper as a blind user, and then having a series of, like, let's say top 10 kind of activities, tasks / techniques, etc., and then compiling a recording of these tasks for people to be able to review and say, like, oh, that's how you instantiate a plugin in Pro Tools. That's how you do it.
I'll be happy to do it.
And then basically in the end have a panel discussion live as a webinar, so that people can discuss, like, how easy or difficult relatively these things are for informational purposes.
Because and then I think that's great for people, which a lot of times either people that I'm a lot more interested in are people who are getting started and don't know where to get started and know why they need to make a choice in which they need to make a choice. So being able to effectively purchase with some real education under your belt, I think that lends itself to that. I like you. Do we have any questions? Because if we don't, and if you guys got anything that you want to possibly wrap up or promote or something like that, I mean, by all means, this is the time.
This may have been answered. This is in Q&A from Pradeep. And is there any possibility to control the preview volume using the complete control hardware?
Well, there was once.
Of course there is.
Andre, you can.
The answer
is it like shift? Yeah.
No, you can't anymore. That jumps by 20 on the S Series Mark IIs. That jumps by 20 presets. Yeah. On the S Series Mark I, shifting the big dial in the browser would control preview volume.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did he say, was the question about preview volume?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, the question is there any possibility to control the preview volume using
Some of them
the
are loud as
complete
hell.
control hardware?
Oh, okay.
Not right now. It's something that, again, I think if we could find a sensible way to do it, that would be something that's quite doable. It's actually not possible in any of the controllers. So, but I think that, it's always that trade-off, with the 4D encoder having that shift action to either skip lists or do other things. But
put some back on the knobs. Shift knobs were great. They were really useful.
Yeah.
Because that was good. The Mark I, you could do it with that. You
Yeah,
see?
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It was on. I remember now
Shift
doing
knob
it.
8.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
We lost that functionality, sadly.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, there are no more questions from Facebook to Q&A or chat, so I leave it to you.
Nice. Okay. Well,
I found myself
Thank you,
yesterday
Mikey.
Googling.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
we did. Well, man, thank you guys for participating. Of course, again, it's always a pleasure to learn. I think we got some really cool information today, especially Ed, dropping some bombs on us from California, like he always does.
I think this is great, and I just, I'm just so proud of this part of my job, and the fact that Pro Tools and these, and other tools are bringing visually impaired people to the audio creation party. Emphatically, you'll see, like when I do my NAM panels and everything, and I try to never make it an Avid commercial. I think that even if someone is our arch competitor, if they have accessible stuff, it's great. We want to have all the tools be accessible. We want to all learn from each other, and offer these solutions, have people pick and choose the right solution. And I just can't wait to see what the future holds for us in terms of further advances in accessibility for Pro Tools and Sibelius.
For sure.
So I lied. There is one more last minute question. I apologize. But no, Jay Breeze just asked one quick question. He had the same question related to preview volume, but for the machine MK3.
Yeah. So same situation. And yeah, again, I think one to look at for sure. So I've made a note here actually.
I just bought me another MK3.
I haven't bought my first yet. I need to get one.
I'm on number 2 here. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I'm taking that one.
I'll ship it to you. Man. Well, hey, thanks again. Anybody want to say anything? I mean, please, by all means.
I was really just going to +1 everything Ed just said. For me, this has been so amazing to work with so many cool people. I've met so many cool people through this, and also big thanks to Ed for inviting me to the NAM panels for the last years for ADC. I think Ed, you've done such an enormous amount, and definitely an inspiration for me as well. So
thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Contributions are incredible. So I'm grateful for you too, and all you guys.
Well, I'm just going to thank Tim personally for once again getting me into this whole ecosystem, and the rest of us, because if that call hadn't come, I have no idea where anybody in complete and accessibility would be right now. There would be some, because people keep their ear to the ground. I wasn't one of those people. I was quite happy in my hardware bubble. But Tim, you've changed my life incontrovertibly, and I've told you this before, but I'm telling you again, and I'm very thankful, even if my wife isn't, because of all the bank balance.
We're going today. Maybe your bank balance not so grateful.
I'm very grateful, literally, for all the opportunities I've had as a result. I've done so many things with Complete over the last 4 years. I'm only going to do more. We all will.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Massive thanks, man.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Please say goodbye to your lovely mom, who I got a chance to talk to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's been out of the building, but I definitely will relay the message. And Slough, Andre, Tim, Ed, Alikey. Thank you.
Alikey.
Thanks to all.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we can
very much. You guys have a great weekend, and stay in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say hi to Catherine, Ed.
I
Please
sure
say
will.
hi to Catherine. Yes.
Yeah.
I sure will. She's in the next room plotting my death because we go.
So you're going to Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, I drive her.
Leave that one alone. Slow.
All right, guys. Thank you so
All right.
much. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend, all.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah,
Likewise.
All right. All right. Bye.
have a great one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.